Acha ji. Now, today we are going to discuss the architecture of SAP landscape, how it is designed. So, we've done with lecture one, that was just a basic overview. Now we have the architecture. Uh, there are layers, three layers of SAP landscape, and the first layer is the presentation layer, the screen layer, where users interact with SAP screen. Second layer is application server, application layer. Here, the code for ABAP is stored, the logic is executed, and the work processes, work requests are created for the application server to execute the commands uh, given by the user. So the dispatcher creates work processes, and uh, those work processes actually are executed based on logic. Okay. So there is shared memory as well that actually is working alongside with the work processes. Okay. And so what are different types of work processes? We have a dialog request. Okay. And dialog, after dialog, we have request to update data in database. Then we have background jobs. Now, background jobs can be for various reasons, for calculating balances or calculating depreciation assets, or for calculating product costing and things like that. Then we have pull requests for printing for like printing reports or checks. So this is also another work request a dispatcher will handle. Then we have logical lock request, messaging request. Okay, this is between third-party applications. Okay, and then we have gateway, which is again third-party integration-based work processes. Okay, so messages are also between R3 and old SAP systems and S/4HANA. And we have, this is the architecture, explain much more how an ABAP dispatcher actually works with various kinds of messaging, and of which we have just discussed. So ABAP dispatcher actually sits in the middle, and it actually communicates through various channels like internet communication manager, through the web, through the gateway with third-party applications, and messaging server with, of course, within the SAP landscape. So messaging server, it is handling communication between different dispatchers, which are basically communicating between various servers. The gateway, it enables communication between SAP and third-party systems. The internet communication manager, it helps in maintaining communication between SAP through the web protocols, that is HTTP and HTTPS, that's the cloud. So the user context is memory allocated to contain the characteristics of a user logged on to R3. Now, there is a certain memory that is specifically allotted to users. So the user context holds information like current settings, authorization, and the program the user is executing or running through his login. So speaking of, again, coming back to much more details, we have work processes which are much more complex. So ABAP Dispatcher issues the request to the work process. It's basically working at different levels and handling the task between the database, okay, using the user context, and based on that, it updates the request and interprets it, and also updates the database at the same time. So there's many things happening at the same time. Database layer is where all the data is stored. Okay. So the software is basically residing in these layers. The data is residing in these layers. The source code is also stored over here. Okay. Now, coming to the next one. So ABAP Dispatcher is basically issuing commands for work processes to deliver messaging control through either internet, through gateways, whatever, for various reasons, for storing data in database, for executing logic. And it keeps a buffer as well. If there is a load, the requests are buffered, and those requests are then scattered and answered to as per the queue. Okay. And the ABAP dispatcher is communicating with the database through the work processes. And when the logic is executed, it's presented to the presentation layer on the screens. Okay. So buffer, as I told you, it speeds up the processing, and it actually stores data which is not changed so frequently, like company code, that is permanent. Currencies, that is again permanent, and it's a copy which is stored at the buffer level, and the dispatcher is using that. So how the dispatcher is communicating with database, this is how it is communicating through OpenSQL, through native SQL, and the database data is exchanged using SQL commands and through ABAP commands as well. So there is a database interface as well that creates a cushion and communication protocol between the database and the interpreter, but sometimes ABAP can also bypass the interface. ABAP ABAP programs are basically residing at the application layer. It picks up data from the database, okay, and it combines the logic and the data and the request from the user, okay. So it's really not that complex to go over. Let me share my lecture. Okay, so we have actually discussed the three-tier architecture just in the presentation. The top is presentation layer, then we have the application layer, and we have the database layer. Okay, so let's go to SAP and see how the tables are maintained. SC11, this is a command, and Mara, okay, now. Change. This is a table called Mara. This is for materials, inventory management, and let's see what it actually is about. It's about general material data, and these are the fields it has. And every field has a characteristic, like character, string, or a client. Now, client is what? The client is not a customer, but a client in SAP is basically the instance that we are working, the server that we are working on. Then we have material number, data division, Mara. And this is a primary field, client, and material number. And this says initial values, because client cannot be empty. You cannot work without a client. So this field has to have some data. Okay. And this field too cannot be empty. It says force not null. Not null means it has to fill up with some value. So let's see how it executes. Right now, we are just actually going through the overview. Okay, now this is a table name, Mara table contents, material. Now, since it says the material, it cannot be empty. It has to have a value. Okay. I know a material. I'll just fill it up over here, 30,000. That's the number of the material. That's not the name. So we have client, we have material, 30,000 created on this date, created by rather than SAP. Okay. And these are other statuses of the material. Okay. So this is how tables are arranged in SAP. Presentation layer, of course, this is the presentation, the screen that we are working on. This is a presentation layer. This is given the commands. So we have uh, three types of GUI. Okay, that's graphical user interface. Let's go and see to SC93. T code is MM01 display, and we have GUI support for HTML, for Java, and for Windows. Okay, this is the thing for Windows, Java, and HTML. Okay, now also BF02 display, and we have GUI. Okay, and it is also controlled and supervised by this program. If I click this, double click, and we have a code and logic actually working behind this screen. That is for this transaction code VF02. Okay, as simple as that. Now, then we have NetWeaver app server, which is a multi-layer architecture. It works with the web, okay, and it actually is working alongside in parallel with cloud version of SAP as well. Okay. So application server, basically, I just told you what is that. It contains dispatcher, work processes, and work processes are actually executing the logic. Okay. So this is the program that is running the VF02 transaction. I'll double click one include. Now this include basically is having more includes. Now these are the programs. Even if you don't understand, it doesn't matter because we're going to actually um, execute this later on. Okay. Now, we have SM50. Now, this is another command. Now, these are the processes right now which are running. Okay. And if you look at it, 18 processes are running right now. Some are running, some are in the queue. Okay. And there is some failure as well with some processes. I mean, this is something the server guys actually have control over. Okay. Now, let's go and write a program. 38. Today is 28 September T53. T8. September. Executable program, local object. Test object cannot be created in foreign namespaces. Okay. Z underscore Z underscore, okay, 28 September T53 side item executable program save. Okay, all right, side item. Now what we're writing an output of system date. Okay, as simple as that. Check, activate, direct processing, and this is the date for today. Okay, now what I'll do, SEU01, SAP was net change. Okay, defaults. I will change the date format from DDMMYY Gregorian date. Okay, 20 hours for our format. Save. Now this is saved. Direct processing. That's still actually working on that level. Let me. Okay, it will actually refresh after we close this screen. But anyways, let's get back to our lecture. Side item is done. Okay, now let's write a program. Okay, now the program is quite simple. SC11. Now, what is SC11? It is to see the tables. MAKT is the table that we are going to use in the code. So we'll have to see what is there in this table. MAKT. MAKT is about material description. Now, some fields like client, material number, language key are necessary to be initialized with some data. It cannot be zero. Okay, and then we have material description, MAC text. The fields are M, A, and DT, Matner, Spras, MACTEX, and MAKG. Okay, description. So let's see how we write this code. MAKT executable program. Save local object. Okay. Now data. Now, okay. Now what we are doing, this is a variable. Now variable is just like alphabet that we use, like ABC. Now what is ABC? It's just an alphabet. It's an empty bucket. So when we are trying to create a bucket to put something in that, a container, a bucket, okay, we have to assign a keyword to define what this is. Now, this is basically a variable. Now, what is a variable again? As I say, it's a bucket. It's just like your car. Your car is empty. When you sit in that, then you become a passenger. But right now, your car is empty. But your car is called WAMAKT. Now, MAKT in SAP's material description table, I'm just using its name, and WA over here means work area of MAKT. I mean, that's how the industry practice is. So I'm creating a car of the type MAKT. I'm creating a bucket of the type MAKT. Type means just like MAKT, just like what does MAKT have? All these fields. So all these fields of MAKT will actually be accessible and programmable with WMAKT. Now, select single. Now, this anything in blue like data or select single and write are SAP keywords. Select single, all records, but single, one time, one at a time. From MAKT, that's the table, into WAMAKT, which is our container, which is our bucket, which is our car, where material number equals 100. Since we don't have any material with that number, we have 30,000. Okay. Okay. So what we'll do, and then we will write the output with a slash, which means enter. Next space, next line. WAMAKT. Whatever we have MAKT will be produced through the right keyword. Okay. Check. Activate. Direct processing. Okay, it didn't show. Right, MAK, WAMAKT. Material description. Okay, it has material description. Now, where do we see the material description? ML03, 30,000. Basic data. We have description, adhesive tapes. It should actually show this. Okay, but it didn't show. Basic data, description. It should show this. It didn't show. Okay. And select, because it says the logic is when you are having a single select, it would should end with a nesting loop with its end select. We will discuss this. No need to worry about that. We're just trying to get the logic straight. That's it. Nothing core about programming. Okay. Anyways, let's stop our lecture over here.